I'm Ben Pullinger, the Senior Vice President of Exploration and Business Development for ATEX Resources. At ATEX, we are exploring the Valeriano project in Chile, which is turning into one of the biggest undeveloped copper projects on the planet. September last year, we put out a 1.4 billion ton resource at a grade just under 0.7 with a high-grade core to it. And this year, we're looking to continue to advance that. Seeing the geology concept come together and showing a lot more upside, and looking to push this forward through the next kind of exploration and into study stage milestones. Ben,
thank you very much for the introduction. Good to be speaking to you again. Since I last spoke to you, we've had quite a few news releases from you guys on the exploration side, which we'll come to.
We're busy, yeah.
We've had the PDAC, which we'll come to, but we've also had the kind of TSX dishing out some kind of awards, sprinkling grace and favour like confetti. And they've kind of talked about the kind of the TSX Top 50 or the TSXV 50, and ATEX has been selected. Within Crux, we're going around and just talking to all of those companies. Did you know that you'd been selected by the TSX?
So I think if you're in the top 5, they let you know, and you get to go to the ceremony. But yeah, other than that, no. We were I think we were third last year, and this year I'm actually not sure where we sat in that ranking.
And so it's kind of like a pat on the back, but they don't really tell you about it. You just find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year in particular was a very difficult year, so it was very interesting in terms of seeing who showed up and whether you're coming off a low base or coming down from a big high. But it's always nice to have a reason to celebrate something.
It's always good. Well, there are other reasons to celebrate now, not least the copper price. I mean, here we are, kind of knocking around $4 per pound, whether you look at the cash or the futures. Any view on that? What's your take of that, apart from kind of a warm, happy, fuzzy glow?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're exploring for copper and you see and you listen to the rhetoric and you hear all the news out there, I think we've all been expecting a move in the copper price like this for quite some time. So to actually see it starting to play out is pretty interesting, and especially just on a project basis. We run all our numbers for a project at our resources, everything at $3.15. So at $4 copper, something that was pretty special, it already starts to look, even more special. And if you look at kind of like in situ numbers, the intercell value of a rock of the high grade core at Valeriano is around $80 per ton at $3.15. At $4, you're starting to get north of 90, and that's some pretty valuable rock.
And that's but that's all within kind of a block cave kind of scenario.
Absolutely, yeah, underground mineable, yeah. Where you're looking at kind of an industry average of about $20 per ton to mine it, to process it and manage it. So, $60 and upward margin on a fixed cost operation starts to look pretty exciting.
Yeah. My view of Valeriana has changed.
Happy to hear that.
in recent months, because I always felt it was an interesting asset. Yes, you've got a kind of a huge distance of kind of barren rock above you, so it was always going to be a kind of a deep block cave target. And block caves are often very good economic assets, but for a junior they are problematic because they take so long to develop and they've got so much capex up front. So I was, and also you're drilling at a very high altitude. Your drill rigs are 4,500 meters above sea level. Is that?
No. 4,200, 4,300, yeah.
Okay, so it's it's quite a you have efficiency challenges, and even for humans and machines alike.
Yeah, indeed.
So I was relatively cautious about ATEX for a long time, but what's really changed, in my opinion, is the early porphyry, and particularly that most recent news release. You put it out in February, and I think your share price was down at 82 cents in January, but you're now up at almost double that, $1.44. Yes, the copper price has moved, but I think the people are kind of clocking the importance of the early porphyry.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, can you tell me more? Because I've been through the news release, but I'd love to hear your take on it and kind of what your plans are for it.
Why don't I flip up a quick image here so we can talk on that? But absolutely, I think what we put together in the last press release and kind of what we've seen through phase 4 is a bit of a game changer in terms of how we conceptualize this resource. Originally we had these 3 trends that were the western trend, the central trend, and the eastern trend. And just based on the way that we drilled them, the spacing, and the conservative way that we modeled this, we had modeled them as 3 fingers. Now, as we're drilling,
sorry. So when you talk about it, which trend are we looking at here?
So these are the original. So in the resource, we had the 3 trends, so 3 fingers. So the western trend.
Is that the one to the north? That's the one the top of the image. I can't see your mouse.
Exactly. You can't see my mouse. Yeah, correct. Yeah. The fatter one in the middle, which was the 200 million tons at 0.9. That's the central trend, and then the little guy on the southeast side there was the eastern trend.
Oh, I can now see your mouse. It's popping up.
But very slowly. And so we originally, we modeled those at 50-meter area of influences and 100 meters along strike for each drill hole, and to keep that grade, from not spilling out too far. And now, as we started to step out and drill, especially, 16A was the game changer, where we hit the early porphyry right between hole 16, which is in the eastern trend, that bottom little guy over there. And we started to see that potentially these 2 trends came together. And we also started to notice that whenever we drilled outside of that to the northwest or the southeast, the southwest or the northeast of these early porphyry intersections, we're hitting wall rock, and that wall rock is still spectacular. It's still 1,000 meters at 0.6, 0.7. But really, it was that the granite direct core, the early porphyry, that we wanted to focus on, because that's where the grade sits. Now, hole 25 has been phenomenal for us. It's the first hole we drilled kind of from the western side of the ridge, and that's the one you can see at the top coming in from the northwest there. It hit the early porphyry 200 meters further west than we'd seen it before, and stayed in early porphyry through what was the western trend, so the top skinny guy, through that gap, and we're finishing it up now in the central trend at about 2,200 meters, with continuous granite direct and mineralization all the way through that. So we think that's going to be. Go ahead.
So when you talk about the early porphyry, is that and the granite direct? Can you see that you're in it? I mean, is it a kind of visually different from the other types of intrusions that you've got there?
I mean, it is pretty much there's 3 ages of intrusions. The early porphyry is kind of like the most veiny, biotite rich, potassic altered, felsic intrusion with the more, and it hosts the majority of the bornite, chalcopyrite rich, and it's a very distinctive rock. We have younger kind of cross-cutting dikes that come through later on, which are mineralized as well and have slightly different features, but it is a very distinctive unit that kind of like the early, what we refer to as the early porphyry. Yeah.
And so that dashed red line, the kind of in hole 25, the continuation of that arrow.
Yep.
Across that untested bit, that was literally untested, and you can see that that's all early porphyry as you go into that central finger.
Yeah, we got into it at 1,550 meters, and we haven't got out of it yet. We're about 2,200 meters now, so it's a continuous, very exciting intersection for us, and also it gives us another piece of information about the continuity between where we thought there were those gaps before, and really it allows us to sit back now and be more systematic about how we draw this out and explore, because I think one of the biggest outcomes for us here is we're moving away from kind of like feeling our way around in the dark to something that we now looks predictive and repeatable in terms of how in terms of our exploration model and how we step out and go and continue to drill this. So that's an exciting change for us as well. Yeah.
And what are your predictive tools? What are your vectoring tools other than what are your predictive tools? What gives you the confidence that you can target mineralization better?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, when you're using geophysics from high up in the crust, and you're looking at something that's a kilometer and a half down, the resolution is always interesting. So we've always had pretty good sets of geophysical data that map out the outer rims of resistivity, for example. But it's this mag vector here, actually, in the blue lines on the north and south, that kind of line up on this north-northwest trend as well. Okay. That seemed to be a very good predictive tool for us hitting the kind of like the magnetite biotite rich granite diorite, which is obviously the higher grade mineralization for us. Okay,
and so the plan for this year then is where you've got the little arrow to the northwest and to the southwest saying southeast saying open. It's to do as much drilling as you can within that corridor.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, if you see where it says the ATX D26 target and the 17B target, and then 25, so we're going to test those gaps, and as part of testing those gaps, we'll add some strike length, especially if you look at where hole 25A is going to go. We're basically going to pull back up 25 and come out pretty much to the east, and get another slice through that northern part of the trend there, and add probably another 2, hopefully more 100 meters of early porphyry intersection up there as well. So it's really, you know, at a 1.2 kilometer long strike length, the early porphyry is about 550 to 600 meters wide, you know, 600 to 700 meters high. That gives you a target just for the granodiorite, just for the intrusive rock there, of, if you do that math multiplied by 2.6, that's a, you know, plus or minus billion ton target. And that's huge for us as well, considering the 3 fingers, like the 3 trends we had before, cumulatively accounted for about 300 to 400 million tons in the resource that we put out in September. We've got a lot of drilling to do to continue to confirm this model, but it really moves the balance of the resource into that granodiorite, which is the better rock for us. It is the higher grade, and it also means in a world where everything else is getting smaller, our deposits getting dumber, easier to model, less domains, and more continuous. And that's really what you want to see on a big bulk tonnage operation.
When you kind of talk about 0.9% copper equivalent, or 0.8% or 0.6% in the wall rock, what's the split in the metals?
But typically for Valeriano, it's at 70% copper, 23% gold, and then a little bit of moly and silver in there as well. But it's predominantly a copper deposit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with
the nice gold credit, yes.
Nice gold credit, 23% in gold. That's pretty helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's just under 10 million ounces of gold when you think about it in those terms. 15.5 billion pounds of copper, so pretty sizable, yeah.
Now, you're drilling pretty deep holes. They can't be cheap. What are you looking at? $1 million a hole?
Yeah, so $1 million to $2 million a hole. But I mean, the return on investment on these holes is pretty staggering as well. If you give each of these holes a 200-meter area of influence and kind of calculate the metal contribution, you're looking at $400 to $500 million worth of metal per hole on a $1 to $2 million hole. So you're creating a huge amount of value with each hole. And the other thing is, we're drilling 2 kilometer deep holes, but of that hole, you've got 1,300, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,300 meters of continuous mineralization above 0.4. So your hit ratio is pretty high and pretty impressive as well.
Okay. Do you have I know it's, you may not have it, but have you got a kind of an allocated budget for exploration this year? I mean, have you got meters or dollars in mind? Yeah, so we're targeting kind of 15 to 20,000 meter program this year. At the beginning of the year here, we weren't sure how excited we were about the markets. We ended up working towards the more conservative end of the scale there, towards the 15,000 meters. And really, I think what we're seeing here, it really sets us up nicely for phase 5, which will be kind of like the drill out phase to get us to the PEA, in which we can systematically set up a much bigger program. Hopefully the market's there to support it, and maybe we can attract some strategic investors along the way to be part of this adventure with us. But we have the ability to put, I think, 5 to 6 rigs now that we've got expanded our camp on the project, and really kind of go for it on that next round of drilling. And you funded for phase 4, this kind of 15 to 20,000. Right. So we've got about $10 million into the treasury right now. We've got a nice little warrant portfolio that's starting to trickle in as well. So I have access probably to between $10 and $16 million between now and kind of like the later part of the year, which gets us well through this program and to do all the other things we need to do to get ready for the next. Yeah, well, I mean, short and sweet. There's not much else to talk about. Just kind of go out there, get exploring, and get the call back. Simple stories are the best sometimes. Yeah, good. Ben, thank you so much. I mean, it really is short and sweet. Are you just doing a kind of a holes as they come back, or is it dependent on what you see? Are you taking a kind of have you set out how you're going to report this, or is it you taking a kind of a rolling judgment kind of take on things? Yeah, it's a bit of a rolling judgment thing, because it depends on the sequence in which holes finish, kind of where they are, how quickly we get results back and things. So it's a kind of case by case basis. But we like to keep the market updated whenever we do anything that we think that is significant or interesting to them, and so we want to keep our news flow regular and consistent. So rolling, yes, but as soon as we have assays that we like to get that out as quickly as possible too. Good. I say it's simple. Of course, I've got loads more questions I'd love to ask, including. Chile now is a kind of a leading country in block caving. It's where there are the most block caves in the world. presumably you're tapping into that expertise, and you've got an idea on timelines and permitting, and you're high in the Andes. It's very sensitive. The ecosystem up there, emotionally, physically sensitive, but also politically sensitive. What are you doing in terms of the internal education process, dealing with the ministries and kind of planning ahead, kind of thinking further ahead?
Yeah, I mean, Australia, we're kind of lucky in the fact that we're part of a cluster, and as that cluster builds out, I think the district as a whole is getting more and more important. If you look at the management, you look at the DNA of ATEX, everybody on the management team, in the board, have been involved in moving projects forward, building mines, and I think so part of that DNA is from day one. We started the environmental baseline monitoring, so we've now gone through 2 years of baselining of the project on the fauna and flora fronts. At the same time, we've been proactive in getting out and getting to know the communities around us. Seeing what their needs are, working with them. One of them was providing high-speed internet through Starlink to clinics and schools. Others are we're rotating through the communities, asking people who's curious about the project, who wants to come and work with us, providing baseline skills, teaching people what we do, and taking them up to work on the project. So the project goes home with the community, and there's no gap between what we say we're doing and what they see that we're doing. And really, these are the things there's never an early enough time to start them. And these are the ways that you start de-risking your program from day one. In addition to permitting and all that, there's a nice, very well-trodden path in terms of permitting in Chile. It's a very clear and transparent system, which is good. And as you said, the expertise, the expertise that we need when we start looking at this PEA, for example, it's in Chile, right? It's the people, they're world-class engineers, world-class geologists, world-class schedulers. They speak the language, and they're close to the project. So it really is the right place to be doing this kind of thing.
In terms of the PEA, normally I like to see a kind of PEA not started too early, because you've got to understand the envelope of your mineralization. Are you thinking kind of resource, understand the envelope, and then come back and infill?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. At the end of phase 4 now, we'll have a pretty good handle on, as I said, that switch to a predictive model for exploration that's working out pretty well. I'm actually heading down to the project in a couple of weeks here with the guy that we're talking to about helping us out in some resource work and planning that next phase, because that next phase is going to be, we'd like to move as much of the de-risking part of the resource into a higher than inferred category, and then as well be able to show that there's still upside and expansion. When you look at a project like, say, for example, if you look at our project at 0.3 cutoff, it's a 2.5 billion ton project. So we're already at, if we're building Red Chris, which is a block cave being built in British Columbia today, 10 million tons per annum, you're looking at something that's already got over 100-year life of mine. If we can bump that up and the infrastructure and everything is there, and the ore body supports, and you got 20 million tons per annum, it's still, you still have a 100-year life of mine. This is going to be a legacy asset. And when we run our numbers, we do all the benchmark, our own internal benchmarking to see what this universe looks like. We're looking at a universe of $20 per ton plus or minus to mine, process, and manage these things. And if you're making $60 margin and you've got $80 rock at a Red Chris scale, that's $600 million a year in free cash flow. They can pay back capital very quickly. And if you upsize it and the copper price keeps on moving the way it is, these become very, very lucrative assets that have a very long history or a very long future ahead of them. Yeah.
And along with that powerful cash flow generation, there's also a kind of a mighty capex figure that it's too much for one junior company. And we've just been at PDAC. There's this ongoing narrative of a shortage of long-term copper assets. What's the inbound kind of system been like? Have you been speaking to all of the? I mean, even as a junior, I speak to the everybody. So presumably you are as well.
I think to assume that a small junior company, or we are getting a little bit bigger, but to think that we're going to be able to build it, finance it, and be able to take the risk on that asset is probably not the way that we'd like to see this go. if you look, there's a pretty well-trodden path in good copper projects where, we want to talk to everybody and see who wants to, if there's somebody out there that wants to put their hand up, partner with us for the ride, come in as a strategic, get to know us, get to know the project, and ultimately be the people that want to take that risk capital when it's time to go into production and help us generate that value. I think that's the path we'd like to go down. And especially in a world that has a shortage of these projects, when you put out the results that we are, you get a lot of attention. And so we do have robust dialogues with the good groups of people that could be potentially people that could build this in the future.
It's very common for the bigger copper projects to be syndicated.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the area, right, you've got Nueva Union 50 kilometers down the road. LS0, which is 2.5 billion tons, our immediate neighbor to the north of us. Codelco is now exploring to the north of LS0, which is pretty exciting as well. So this is becoming a very important jurisdiction, and it's one of the things where there hasn't been one mine that's gone into production and had to bear the brunt of all that infrastructure. There is a bigger picture here that bigger companies and the people that ultimately develop this area can really start to plan out that synergy and save a lot of capital up front by doing smart things. And
part of that infrastructure will be water, presumably, bringing it from the sea.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. I mean, so this will require either salinated or desalinated water at some point. But it'll allow a pipeline that hopefully links up all those other projects, and that'll be pretty exciting for again the district as a whole.
Good. Ben, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Good luck with the work and the site visit ahead, and I look forward to speaking to you again, perhaps after the assays and the photos are out on hole 25A.
That's great, yeah. I'm pretty excited about that, and look forward to chatting to you down the line. And thanks for your time again.
No worries. Go well.
Cheers, bro.